Maggot! Shiny, huge duck.
Gambling addiction is a brain disorder which is preyed upon by the gambling industry.
It's a huge what? It's what?
Now I can spend 100,000 to get 4,096. I really want to do it, but I just don't have the Robux.
But what if I told you that this game is nothing but a digital slot machine disguised as a fun Roblox experience for kids?
Have you ever gambled? Probably not, considering you're watching a Roblox video, but by the off chance that you have, you understand how addicting it can be. How it can completely wreck lives and destroy families. Where do you think this behavior begins? Desperate money problems? A relative or a friend with an addiction? The last thing that might cross your mind is Roblox. Yes, it's true, right here on this children's gaming platform, there is a serious evil that's been brewing for the past couple of years. You might think I'm taking this too seriously, but I know you'll change your mind by the end of this video because I'm gonna tell you how they manipulate your brain, how they manipulate your money, and towards the end I've even directed a short but very dark movie which will make you think twice about ever setting foot in an RNG game again. So buckle in. First off, we are going to start with a quick explanation for those of you who are completely new to this area of quote-unquote gaming. Feel free to skip to the time on the screen if you're already familiar. 2 years ago, a game called Souls RNG started to make some waves on the front page. On the surface, it seemed like a pretty soulless game. I know, thank you. In Souls RNG, all you had to do was click roll and you'd get a random aura that you could equip. Little did you know, a few more rolls in and you would very quickly get addicted to it. The following year, in October of 2024, the developers of an extremely popular game called Pet Simulator decided to try their hand at making something similar to Souls RNG. And so, Pets Go was born. This new game had very similar mechanics, only instead of rolling auras, you would be rolling pets. Much easier to understand and much more child-friendly. Or so you'd think. Games like these fit a phrase that I like to call gateway gambling. It isn't technically gambling, but it's similar enough that people who play it might start to show gambling tendencies. First off, let's define gambling. The act of risking something of value, typically money, on an event with an uncertain outcome with the main goal of winning more money or material goods. Pets Go does technically fit this description, but this small-time YouTuber is not looking for a lawsuit, so I am not making that claim. While Pets Go may not necessarily be about gambling, it definitely likes to fit the gambling mechanic into a lot of different molds. For example, spending Robux to double your luck. Spending Robux to buy a god potion to boost your odds of rolling a very rare pet on the next roll. Last but not least, spending Robux to roll more pets at once, which is basically like adding an extra slot to a slot machine. Of course, none of these features may individually constitute gambling, but it's the act of spending Robux, which are directly worth real money, for a better chance at winning something rare. With that in mind, I would like you to think about Pet Simulator for a quick second. What audience do you think that game is targeting? It's obviously children, and that's okay for a game about collecting your favorite pets. But what do you think those kids will do when they see this new game featuring their favorite mascot pop up on the front page? By the way, it's on the front page because it's a top-earning game. More on that later. The big problem with targeting children for games like these is that the younger you are, the easier it is to shape, manipulate, and abuse your brain. Being introduced to gambling mechanics at a young age can normalize the idea of risking resources for uncertain outcomes. Alright, I'm gonna have to use the full extent of my psychology degree for this one. RNG games might seem like they're all fun and games while you're young. I mean, who cares? You're spending Roblox money for Roblox pets, right? I understand why it seems so stupid that I'm making such a big deal out of all this. And your TikTok brain-rotted brain might get put off by the fact that I'm about to give you a psychology lecture, but just hear me out. In fact, let me give you some eyeball stimulation during this segment. There's this thing called brain plasticity, which refers to how easily your brain takes in new ideas and changes its way of thinking. Okay, I can't with this music. The older you get, the lower your brain plasticity becomes, which explains why old people often struggle to understand new social norms or technology. This goes both ways though, meaning younger people have high brain plasticity. This is generally a good thing as they can learn things quicker while being children, but just imagine what RNG games would do to their young impressionable brains. They are basically the gateway drug of the gambling world. Going from a completely normal person to a compulsive gambler is quite a big step. But what about when you've already been doing it virtually? It's not a massive change to go from betting Robux to betting real money, especially when you started at a young age. I would also like to remind you that the brain doesn't fully develop until the age of 25. So you don't necessarily have to be a diaper-pissing toddler for this to apply to you. By the way, there is literally a sign in the trading plaza stating the exact value of gems in Robux. Robux have a direct value in real American dollars. Me and you both know that there have to be people out there selling their most rare pets for real money. Now, how about the trickery they use to play with your mind? Have you seen this image before? This is your brain on RNG games. Let's say you've spent some of your hard-earned Robux to try and roll something cool. You roll something okay, like a 1 in a million. You think to yourself, what if I buy another potion and try rolling again? What if I'm missing out on something amazing by not spending just another 1,000 Robux? You do it again and the cycle repeats as you spend more and more and more to try and beat all of those people up on that leaderboard. But you don't realize that most, if not all of them, spent thousands of dollars to reach that point. Let's say you've done it. You've managed to get the rarest pet in the game, a 1 in 1 billion. Next week, they'll update the game and add something even more rare. That's because the people who have spent enough money to roll a 1 in a billion are the most likely to spend even more to roll the next biggest thing. They've got you wrapped around their finger and you can't escape because you've already spent hundreds or even thousands of dollars to reach that point in the first place. Their whole strategy is to make rare rolls less rare, to hook those at the bottom into feeling like they're achieving something, while making those at the top feel like they need to achieve more. I'll give you an example. 1 or 2 months ago, Pets Go gave players 10 times luck for a weekly update. They haven't removed it since because they know players will get demoralized when they suddenly start rolling worse pets. Side point, everyone and their grandma now owns a huge. So what do? They add in Titanic pets. Mark my words, it's only a matter of time before a 1 in a trillion pet is introduced, called a colossal or something. Do you know how rare that's actually meant to be? If you multiplied the entire human population by 100, one person might roll it, and even that isn't guaranteed. Remember when I mentioned rolling something okay like a 1 in a million? Repeat that to yourself right now. How have they brainwashed you into believing that a pet with 0.00001% rarity isn't incredible? It's because it's not. It's not 1 in a million, it's closer to about 1 in 500. Think back to the first thing you rolled in your RNG game of choice. In Pets Go, it's likely a 1 in 2 cat. Simple math tells us that it cannot be 1 in 2. Let's do some quick math. 50% chance for the cat, plus 33% for the dog, plus 25 for the bunny. You've already lost us. You may think that it's unrealistic to expect them to display the actual rarities, and you have a point, but it's the fact that the odds are inflated so disproportionately, it's actually just dishonest. All these rarities and statistics are complete BS. They exist only to make you believe your winnings are better than they really are. It's like winning a game of poker at a casino, and the cashier gaslights you into believing your $1 chip is actually worth 100. Okay, let's say that these numbers are only inflated because of people spending Robux to boost their luck. What if you started from scratch? When I first tried Pets Go, I occasionally invited a few of my friends who have never played the game in their lives to join me.
I just got 1 in 30,000, bro. Holy. Yeah, so statistically, I'm one of the luckiest people in the world right now, yeah? Yeah.
Just tell me, how does the math add up here? Hold on.
It
You got the
doesn't
one
add
in-
up.
Every single one of them rolled at least a 1 in 40,000 within their first 100 rolls. One of them even rolled a 1 in 2 million. Are you seriously telling me that my friend just happened to be in the 0.0000005% of players who would achieve that? In fact, let's take it a step further. A friend I made in university managed to roll the second rarest pet in the game, a 1 in 100 billion. He randomly texted me a few days ago and told me, "Don't bother with the Titanic in Pets Go, it's ugly. Ugliest pet I have. It looks like they took 2 minutes to design this." Remember what I said? Even the winners are not happy. There is no satisfying end goal for you. I know the title financial manipulation almost sounds like a federal crime, but making you feel like you have to spend more money just doesn't quite have the same ring to it. While it is possible to play games like Pets Go without spending a dime, there are constant reminders everywhere you turn that you can spend money for much better odds of rolling something good. Think about how difficult it must be to remain free to play when you see everyone around you spending Robux and rolling much better pets than you. What do you think is the biggest reason people decide to break their free to play title and start spending Robux for better pets? It's because there is no free to play title. You can't tell whether someone's free to play or not. The game is intentionally designed in a way that you can't earn recognition for rolling a rare pet legit, because a free-to-play leaderboard would mean less kids are spending money on the game. When I tell you this game is a complete cash grab, I mean it. One of my close friends is addicted to an RNG game, but there's a good reason that I wouldn't class that one as a cash grab. Can you spend like any Robux on this game?
There's one.
Okay, but how much is it?
39 Robux for a quick
bro,
roll,
that's literally
which
nothing.
is not bad at all.
The auras that you can roll on that game are also just a million times cooler than their Pets Go counterparts.
Yeah.
Oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no, man. What the
I might need to stand here because they get big. Right, stand back. Now, at this point, you probably want to get on the wall.
On the complete opposite end, I interviewed another friend of mine who spent a lot of Robux on Pets Go.
Hello.
How many Robux have you spent on Pets Go?
I think like 50,000.
Why did you feel the need to spend so much?
There is this one game pass, I think, or transaction, I should say, that it could like 100 times your luck and stuff, and the more you spend, the better your luck gets. And I just went into a loophole of just buying that.
If you buy the double luck again, does it reset the timer?
Yes, it does.
Oh, that's interesting. Alright, this is a big one. He's referring to the double your luck transaction, which costs 25 Robux. It doesn't seem like a lot at first, but it expires after 12 in-game hours. No worries though, you can double it again to reset the countdown. Now it's 50 Robux. Let's say you keep going. 5 cycles in and you're spending 400 Robux to reset the countdown. 10 cycles in and it's become 12,800 Robux. At 13 cycles, you are spending 102,400 Robux. That's around $1,000 worth of Robux. You might be thinking, wouldn't they stop when it reaches numbers as big as these? Sure, they might stop if they run out of money, but try put yourself in their shoes for a second. At first, it's quite cheap and you'd probably buy it without a second thought. But it very quickly becomes a lot of money. And the worst part is, if you stop paying for just 12 in-game hours, you lose all of that luck you built up. It's like if you stop paying before you roll the rarest pet, all of that money you spent has just completely gone to waste.
Cause I spent like 20,000 Robux, and then when it was gonna end, I just like kept buying more so it wouldn't end, because I already spent so much on it.
So what would the player do if they don't actually have the money to keep it going? I'd assume they're quite young, as they don't have access to much money, if any. So try think back to your childhood. You needed money, so where would you turn? Your mum's credit card! Do better, Preston, do better, man. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think about gambling? Right, casinos. Now, you probably don't think the Pets Go map looks anything like one, but that's obviously the point. Something you might not stop to consider though is that the game plays with your senses in the exact same way a casino might. There are so many weirdly accurate parallels that you'll be confused you didn't see it sooner. For example, the bright colors. Except for the fact that they're even brighter to attract children. This might sound like I'm grasping at straws here, but let me land, okay? Have you heard of Pavlov's dog? It was an experiment where a guy rang a bell before feeding a dog. Long story short, eventually the dog would start salivating at just the sound of the bell. Okay, how the hell does this relate to Pets Go? Well, every time you roll a pet that has a rarity of 100k or higher, you hear this sound. When you roll a pet that's 1 million or higher, you hear this sound. When you roll a pet that's 50 million or higher, you hear a very sudden, bassy sound. Still lost? Let me land. Let's talk about dopamine. It's a hormone that gives you feelings of pleasure, satisfaction, and motivation. When you get good grades or a promotion at work, it's dopamine that makes you feel good about yourself and gives you the motivation to work even harder. Unfortunately, games like these tend to abuse that as much as possible. Every single time you hear that bassy sound, your brain will release dopamine and you will get excited because you might be about to hatch something very rare. Almost all of the time, this won't actually happen. You will feel the need to keep going, to hear that bassy sound again. You'll be chasing that dopamine rush, constantly thinking about how good it will feel when you finally hatch that huge pet. When you eventually spend enough money and hatch it, you'll feel a massive sense of achievement for a few minutes. But then you'll think to yourself, I could keep going and hatch something even bigger. Is this starting to sound familiar? It's the classic sob story of the dude who went to the casino, won big over and over again, felt lucky, and inevitably lost everything. Alright, let's just ground ourselves real quick. It's just Roblox. You're not truly gonna lose all of your life savings on Roblox. Remember what I said about plasticity? Wait, were you paying attention, class? Just imagine how this is restructuring your brain. You're basically gambling, but with no real consequences. Think about what's gonna happen when you inevitably try it in real life. Now that got deep, so let's move on to yet another hidden similarity. When someone wins big, the casino often loves to announce it to everyone else nearby, to convince others that they can do it too. In Pets Go, when you roll a 1 in a million or more, the game will announce it to the server through fireworks and a message in the chat. When you roll a 1 in 500 million, you'll get fireworks, an announcement in the chat, and the pet you rolled will appear in the sky along with your username. When you roll anything over 1 in a billion, you'll get everything previous along with a global announcement. That means everyone across every server will see your name pop up in the chat along with what you rolled. Remember, these 1 in a billion rolls are not as rare as they're made out to be. So anytime you take a glimpse at the chat, you'll see hundreds of people rolling incredibly rare pets, urging you to spend a ton of your hard-earned money, or your parents' hard-earned money, to try and beat them. In the game's description, they have got the phrase, "Today is your lucky day." A quick Google search shows this phrase is commonly used in real-world casinos. Who do you think would be baited by a phrase like this? Obviously, it would be the people who've been risking money for rewards from a young age. Those young adults who grew up spending real money on RNG games will see a message like that and might be curious enough to try real gambling for themselves. I realize that I might have just grasped at another straw, but you have to see the bigger picture. All of these straws together make a Tesco Keep It Handy Paper Straws 30 pack. Also, Tesco, fix your prices, fam! Real concepts like the gambler's fallacy apply here too. It's basically the incorrect belief that a person's more likely to win after suffering more losses, even though every single roll is completely independent.
Every time you spend, you end up getting like one good pet, and then you keep spending more because you think you're getting close to getting like a huge or something.
Right.
It's in reality or not.
If you have a 10% chance of getting a huge when using a god potion, that doesn't mean you'll 100% get one after 10 of them. It doesn't matter how many of them you buy. The goddess of luck does not owe you anything. Okay, things are about to get very deep, so buckle in. This is the story of... we'll call him Bobby. Bobby's 10th birthday is tomorrow. Luckily for him, his mum knows exactly what he wants. Robux. Bobby was treated to the sight of 24,000 Robux in his account the next day. It wasn't cheap, but his mum wanted to make sure that her son's 10th birthday would be full of happiness. There are 3 things that Bobby likes: Robux, more Robux, and Pet Simulator. So when he sees this new game by the same studio, featuring his favorite mascot, he had to give it a shot. The game seemed pretty simple. Click the egg, hatch the pet. Very quickly though, he started to feel a pull toward it. He managed to hatch a pet that was 1 in 50,000 on just his 46th roll. And then Bobby found the exclusive shop. I mean, look at that. He could buy 25 of these sick looking potions for just 50 Robux. Before he knew it, he was rolling 1 in a millions back to back. Eventually, his screen turns black as he hears a very deep, bassy sound. He's rolled something big. It's a 1 in 50 million, and suddenly he feels on top of the world. But Bobby wants to feel that rush of excitement again. Once again, he checks the store and is amazed to find just how many things he could buy with his Robux. And then he spots the double your luck button. It's only 25 Robux, literal pocket change to him. A couple days later, Bobby realizes that the countdown is about to reach 0, so he doubles his luck again. After a few weeks, it's become evident that he's spending way too much. But stopping now means he's wasted all of his money, because he hasn't hatched a huge yet. To add to his problems, the next payment costs 10,099 Robux, and he only has 9,200. He's not entirely out of luck though. His mum's taking a nap, and he knows exactly where her purse is. Bobby thinks to himself,
I only need 1,000 Robux, which cost $10. I don't think she'll notice.
And he was right. Mission success. Bobby now has another 12 hours to finally roll that huge pet, and his luck's even doubled. He didn't roll the huge. And now he's got a decision to make. It's 25,000 Robux.
I know Mum's gonna be angry if I borrow $300 on her card, but I can pay her back because I'll get so many huge pets and sell them all.
With seconds to spare, Bobby manages to buy the double luck upgrade yet again, along with everything else in the store. His Pets Go journey is about to peak, and he knows it. Many god potions later, he's finally done it. Surrounded by huge pets, rolling 12 pets at a time, life could not be better.
Bobby, did you spend $500 on my credit card?
Yo, man, being good?
Yeah, chillin', man. Give me the usual. Lisa?
Bob? It's been ages.
Yeah, it really has been. I've been so busy at work since the time we lost 10k on blackjack.
You down to the casino after this?
Yeah, sure, why not? Actually, I have like 100k to play with.
100k? That's like everything you have. I was joking about the casino, you bum. Need some time off of that stuff.
Shut up. I don't have a problem. Hold on. Give me a sec.
Is this Bobby Bobertson?
Yes.
Your mother was in a car crash. She's currently in a serious condition and paralyzed from the neck down. Please make your way down to hospital as soon as possible.
Yeah. I'll be there by morning.
Bro, what happened?
And black was the night. She came to me, resembled a god, enchanting me forever, she said. And after, and after, and after, and after, this day received a miracle, broke God, gave blood, one lost, all God.
Mom!
Bobby.
Are you okay?
I don't know what happened. My body just went limp.
Mom, oh my god.
Let's talk about your options, son.
Alright, hit me.
Now, the surgery will be about 100k, and it will save your mother's life. To treat her paralysis 2, though, it costs 200k in total, as it would require experimental surgery.
I'll handle it, Mom.
Are you sure? I don't have many years left as it is. You need that money to pay off college, don't you?
Don't worry.
Son, I've never been more proud of you.
I'm gonna leave the rest up to interpretation. Did Bobby pull it off? Nobody knows, and that's the problem. Gambling doesn't stop at virtual pets. Gambling doesn't stop at virtual money. Gambling doesn't stop at real money, and ultimately, it might not stop at human life. Before anything else, that story was dark. It was dramatic. It was pretty unrealistic. So I guess that begs the question, was it real? Of course it's not real. You should have realized that when I named the kid Bobby. Sorry if your name's Bobby. But the dark truth is that it could become real. Right now, we're at a stage where gambling is becoming more widespread and even managing to reach children. Let me just reiterate. Yes, that story seemed like something that might happen to 1 in 1,000 people. But there are millions of kids who play games like these on the daily. Also, remember that the outcome doesn't have to be as dramatic as Bobby's. By creating this infrastructure of risking money in your head, you're setting yourself up to gamble with things much more serious than just money. And one day, it might just cost you something you can never get back.